I have a little different take of reality on this planet, actually in the universe. Not really so much reality as this thing I call unreal, the unreality of the world. And I picture the world as being mostly unreal, and yet it shapes itself around reality. It's going to take this whole video to understand what I'm talking about. It's kind of hard to put it together in 10 words. One sec. I am going to follow along and recite most of a patent I had pending for a while. I called it Godly Powers, and it's basically trying to get a patent on the supernatural. And it did not happen, and I'm just going to talk about it, go through my version of reality. I try to describe to the patent office what reality is, and it involves the unreal, and it will hopefully describe my viewpoint on the world, on the universe. I was trying to create the patent so that others could, well, I was trying to make it so that it would become officially known that this thing exists, called Godly Powers, or the supernatural. In reality, supernatural does not exist, and James Randi makes a $1 million bet that it doesn't exist and that you can't prove it. One second. So I was just trying to put Godly Powers, the supernatural, into reality via the patent office, so that others can make patents based off mine, so that everybody can patent stuff that's supernatural, and we'd be usually before, well, currently the patent office issues patents based on reality, based on things that don't defy physics, laws of physics. And what I'm trying to do is state that this is okay to talk about this, and it's because it's been around for literally, I think, millions of years. And I'm trying to make it so that we can have levitating cars. We can make Ford can make a patent based off mine. It's called a certain word in the patent world. Give me a second. It's called new use patents. You make a patent based off somebody else's. Anyways, Ford could make a levitating car, right? So the first step is to get people accustomed to the idea that this actually exists in reality. In other words, try to merge the unreal to the real, so that we can start talking about this like it's real. Okay, instead of saying that it doesn't exist and can't be proved, let's now start saying that it can exist, and we need to start believing. The supernatural world, this unreal world, has supernatural. It's an odd realm. It's the unreal realm, surrounded by the real realm, and that real realm is around me. In other words, reality exists at its central focus point, and that is me. And everything, the show, my Truman Show, the world is a stage based on reality. Even though outside of me, around my bubble, around my reality bubble that surrounds me, the supernatural exists. And that I believe that you all can fly, and fly like Superman. I did some tests with TruthUnderOath.com, and the statement was, I cannot fly like Superman. And I found that a person could sign it without the oath, but when I asked her to sign it with the oath, she couldn't do it. So my suspicions were correct. I believe that everybody on this planet can fly like Superman, except for Chris Roller, me. And the irony to this is that I suspect that in reality I am going to be the first to fly like Superman. So it's a, one second. Now, you cannot, if you do fly like Superman, it cannot get reported. It cannot get reported in reality as that unless you, like I had a jetpack on or some kind of conventional excuse that allows it to exist. And that's so you can use this unreal, the supernatural, in the real realm as long as it's disguised with something as long as it's disguised as an excuse. So if a magician is cutting somebody into two, there has to be a real excuse. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to display that trick on TV, on my TV here. My TV screen is the viewpoint to the world. And if you can show me this, then there has to be a real explanation for it. Say you are a magician and you are hungry, so you conjure up an apple. Poof, it's there. Then somebody comes by and says, "Hey, where did you get that apple from?" You say, "Well, I plucked it from a tree, or I bought it from the store," and that's it. I mean, it cannot get reported as something miraculous. So, in reality, miracles do not exist. Supernatural does not exist. But if you disguise it well, then it can sort of exist. It can sort of like, and it has to be done in the right manner. Otherwise, it just cannot get reported. Now, that same magician, he could plant a bean in the soil, and it grows up to the clouds, like in Jack and the Beanstalk. Now, he's going to go try to get a news, NBC News to tape this thing so that it can be, he can. But unfortunately, there's no real excuse that don't defy laws of physics for something like this occurring. A vine cannot grow that tall. In reality, it defies explanation, defies laws of physics. Thus, that can never get reported except for maybe as a fairy tale. And maybe that's how some fairy tales got actually made. Somebody in the unreal made this happen in some kind of fantasy land of theirs in the unreal, and said, this can't be real, so I can't make a real story out of this, so I will just create a fable. So, one second. Golly power, these magicians. But when I say magician, I don't mean exactly a performing magician, a stage magician, or somebody that's making money from this. What I mean is anybody that had godly powers was a magician. So I just want to make that clear. It's not like a magician pulling a rabbit out of a hat. It's just if you had these powers, then I'll call that a holder. You had the powers, and I estimate that like about 1/6 of the planet, about 1 billion people, had these powers up until about, was it March of 2007, when it went global. God or something, God gave everybody them powers. So now everybody has them. It can do some, conjure an apple up now. I mean, before not everybody had them. So, one second. So you would think if this actually occurred in March 2007 that would be like a news conference. Yes, we all have godly powers now. We all can conjure an apple out of nowhere and stuff. And unfortunately, these godly powers aren't real. God isn't real. This concept is not real, and so thus, even though there is like this unreal party going on, yay! Oh, we've all got him now. In reality, it's like nothing is new. It's like a split personality of the world going on, in which in the real realm is something going on, and in the unreal it can be total utter chaos sometimes, I imagine. So, one second. So just want to talk a little bit about some of the things in nature. You know, there are Christians who say everything is God. God made the tree, God made the building. You know, there is, and then the other spectrum is the atheist, and you know, everything is based on reality, and there's nothing supernatural or godly going on. So that I find it in between. It's and mostly on the godly side. It's tend to shift to the at least halfway past the to the God side. That you know, a tree has life. There is a life spirit inside that tree, and so so there's things so that could be the supernatural working. I'm not going to make that statement. I'm not going to say for sure on that one. But there, I mean, we could say under oath. The only way to find out this stuff is under the oath. There's the truth. What I found is I implemented a service where the truth can be found out about this unreal realm under the oath, and only under the oath. It's the only place it can be talked about. Some of the wildest things I could ever, I mean, some of the crazy stuff that I could say, I've said in the courtroom, and nobody said I was wrong on anything. Now, if I were to say any of those things to a psychiatrist, they'd coop me up in this 72-hour hold. So there are things going on. This unreal realm is true. I knew I was right. I mean this, and it's just talking about it is a very uncomfortable thing for people. It's even though they are quite aware of it, you are quite aware of it. You have a hard time talking about this in reality. Anyways, okay, so one second. So it may be determined that, like, deep fat fryers, I suspect at 375 degrees, that deep fat fryers are actually operating on the supernatural, because you know, you just gotta wonder how does this oil not get inside of a chicken nugget? You know, it's fairly porous. These things that are fairly porous, and nothing gets inside there. It's not like greasing the inside. It's just cooked. You know, it makes you wonder. Some of these things make you wonder. I mean, even the tree example, it kind of makes you wonder. Okay, is this actually the supernatural disguised in reality as something natural, a natural excuse for something supernatural? And I do consider life as maybe supernatural. I mean, these are things that I may be getting credit for life. Anyways, there's other examples here, like follicular transplants. When I got some transplants at Bosley, I realized none of them worked for me. I realized that godly powers sometimes don't work on me, and it's like miracle grow. Godly powers are like miracle grow for a follicular hair transplant without a blood source. It requires godly powers to make that transplant work. So, very rare for Bosley to ever to be missing 2% of the hair. I missed 100%. None of mine took. So, I mean, this example. Another example. Somebody was telling me. One second. I can't remember the company name, but he works at the Seagate. Anyways, he works in the hard drives area and the power drives, and he's telling me that they're getting word that power ratios are above 1. Well, that means that power out is actually greater than power in, that defies physics. And so he was telling me that, you know, they're being told that this is a mistake, that they're just having errors in their instruments. And the reality is, as I've been maturing through life, I'm 41 now, but as I've been maturing in life, these things have been getting more. Magic has been getting more real as time goes on. I'll talk about that in a little bit here. Let me see here. What else? One second. Another example of the maturing process for me is this service I implemented called the TruthUnderOath.com. I matured enough, and I was able to implement this globally, which is it seemed like an incredible thing. it's not quite real. It's not exactly real enough to be getting paid the $1 billion a day I deserve. So other things like one second. The maturing process for me is related to this drugs that I'm on. I was declared bipolar and I've been taking antipsychotic drugs for basically 10 years now, since '99, and I was taking so much of them for like 2 years. The doctors just keep upping the doses, so I'm like basically just a zombie. I'm not really normal. Anyways, they pumped up so much with drugs that anyways, I had a medical condition. I'll talk about. You'll see that in another link. I'll look at the psychiatrist link. But basically, what happened is I went off the drugs, and the effect the effect was that the bees died. This was right around December 10th of 2006, and my dad immediately told me that the bees are dying. Like 80% of the bees are dying all over the place. They're missing, and they're dying. They can't find them. Anyways, I realized this is related to me, and I was concerned for a year or two. I was trying to figure out, okay, does that mean I've somehow killed off? The doctors have somehow killed off part of nature, because that this is a concerning thing, right? I mean, what happened? Anyway, so it turns out that bees just simply aren't needed that much anymore, because the worker bees to pollinate plants is now done with magic now. So some of the things, and I've heard of birds and some other animals, there's like less birds now. It's just whatever some of these insects were doing, and birds and other things, whatever they were doing in nature is now, they're not needed as much anymore due to magic that I've implemented. And it's just a natural thing. I'm not even consciously doing this. God is taking care of this. But what's happening is that magic is becoming more real through time here. The more I take these drugs, the more it happens. More real supernatural occurs on this planet, and yet it's barely real. I mean, it's nobody in the bee industry will admit that what I'm saying here is true. I'm telling you what's happening. Another example of godly powers that's disguised in nature is what I would say is hypnotism, or a power of suggestion, a way that you can sort of like get people to do stuff, and that's a little bit interesting for me to watch that stuff. But that might be another example. Another example of godly powers in nature is and there's a few examples, but this is really the hard proof. Is this guy named is Kim Peek? Is the Rain Man, and there's a guy called Brain Man, Daniel Temet, and these guys got something going. Okay, you have to watch the documentary on these guys, because what they're doing is, I mean, they're doing some supernatural stuff. For Rain Man to be pulling off exact phrases, the second sentence on the 103rd page of a book that he read 10 years ago, something's going on, folks. Okay, I'm sorry that's just too dang bizarre. Okay, unfortunately for these people, these savants, they are messed up. They can barely wipe their butt. I mean, and so I don't know why God has to. It's like God has to create a disguise for this behavior. The disguise is that he's messed up. He's severely handicapped, but they call it savants, and most of these savants are really crippled of some sort. Anyways, Brain Man though is the only guy, maybe other than myself, maybe you might consider me a savant. Brain Man, Daniel is very normal, but he can talk. So he's the only one that can talk about this stuff. How he's able to give pi to, was it 100 digits or 1,000 digits or something like that? And the way he talks about how he's doing it is, it doesn't make any sense. The only thing that makes sense is that he's got godly powers. Same for Rain Man. So I mean, if you want, this is the thing about, in reality, the proof of godly powers is very elusive. I mean, I only uncovered it, like I said, when I was taking David Copperfield to court. He told me that there's no known excuse, no known cause for the usurpation of godly powers. So, I mean, he's talking about this stuff like it exists. Okay, so. One second. The supernatural has been known to only exist at the subatomic level. At the macro level, this doesn't exist. Subatomic, the quantums, they say that things are disappearing and appearing out of phase, and so it's at the subatomic level. Physicists agree that there's something unusual going on, but anything at the macro level, above the atomic level, it's not. There is nothing that defies physics in reality. One second. And yet this is going on. This supernatural thing is going on, like I suspected. I mean, all my craziness from the past 10 years. It turns out, I'm pretty darn sure I was right the whole time. It's just that, in reality, this stuff, it creates such a uncomfortableness around in reality that it causes me to become crazy. I'm, mentally ill for saying this stuff, and it turns out that I'm right the whole time. And James Randi is a magician, and he has a Randy.org. He has a bet that $1 million challenge that if you can prove the supernatural exists, you get $1 million. And what's going on there is that, James Randi, as a magician, he has these powers, and so he's like a con man. He's pulling off some game here, where I mean, you should see that. When I took him to court, I've realized that he takes in these freaks. He finds the people that are the freakiest people, the most gone. And the more mentally deranged they are, the more he suspects they've actually got powers in reality. See, some of these people, these, what you call them, freaks, is they're able to take the supernatural and make reality out of it. In other words, some of them are more gifted in reality with their powers, so they can actually do things like some of them say they can make something levitate. Well, depending on how they talk, if they're really out there, they're gonna go to their doorstep pretty quick and find out what's going on. And then what he's doing, James, is making money off these. He's marketing these people, taking their gifts and figuring out a way to make some money in the real world to use these supernatural powers in reality to make something that's useful, a useful product out of it. And so he's been James Randi, he's something else, man. Anyways, he says that nothing, this stuff that doesn't exist, but he's going out there and marketing this stuff. He's making a lot of money off this, right? And then if you ever prove that it doesn't exist, and he's using his powers to counter what you're doing. So he can sort of help counter whatever you're doing in reality. So he convinces you that you're not doing it, but if you're good enough, then he'll say, listen, just keep it quiet and let's go make something productive and make some money from this, right? So, but if David Copperfield were to go to James Randi's on that challenge, if David Copperfield were to go to his lab and try to perform some tricks, I seriously doubt that David Copperfield is even going to be able to do any tricks there. In reality, it's like, it can't be done in reality. In other words, it cannot be real what he's doing. So that's the reason why James is so confident that he can win this challenge, because God won't let it. God will not let supernatural exist in reality, and will do things to prevent it, like allow James Randi to counter what you're doing, moving a rod or something across the table. He'll counter that. What's it? Hang on. So, in the quest for this patent, another attorney had mentioned that Copperfield just could be a trade secret what he's doing. The thing is, I seriously doubt that a trade secret can actually be written down, and it exists, and it actually exists to say that yes, I'm using supernatural. In other words, it's a conundrum in which he's stating that his trade secret exists in reality, and yet it doesn't even exist in reality. And supernatural doesn't exist in reality, yet he wrote it down. It doesn't make sense. So we'll see about that sometime in the future what happens there. But if people had wrote a diary and they said, yeah, I'm doing this on the side. Well, we'll see. I doubt it, but we'll see. So this unreal realm, the unreal realm that you all exist in, I think there's probably some really interesting things going on, some really chaotic stuff. I mean, imagine everybody's flying around on reality, and then in reality, everybody's just walking around and in cars. It sounds crazy to say some of the stuff that I'm saying right now, but I have trouble. I have an imaginative mind, and I have trouble envisioning exactly what is going on out there, outside of my reality bubble. If there's this chaoticness going on out there of the supernatural world, and then in a split personality, it gets masked in reality. I have an imaginative mind, but I have a hard time understanding how this can be happening. But yet I think it is. I'm concerned for the unreal because, I mean, there are things that can be done. One second. There's this thing called seeing is believing, but sometimes I question how they visually. Okay, one time I'm in a grocery store and I suspect my demons are coming down from the ceiling with an Uzi trying to take me off from above, and the guy at the register is doing this. I'll just try to do this where I'm looking at you now, and then he does this. And it's like he sees it, but it's not quite registering as reality. In other words, he can't. I mean, sometimes with the Uzi behind me, he's going to do this, or look up and say, "Oh my God," But unfortunately, there is no explanation for somebody coming straight out of a ceiling. That's this, like some sci-fi movie. And so this is not real. And there's, I'm still trying to understand how people can see this thing, and I wonder if they even render it 5 minutes later, if they've completely forgot it, or it's just simply something that existed, and they just. One second. Now there are things that like murder or rape. I mean, sometimes maybe you can murder somebody in the unreal. Or rape them, and it's like, what concerns me is that if you make it, the wilder it is, the crazier the murder or rape, the less can get reported in reality. So it's like these things can actually maybe happen and people getting away with it. So that's the thing. The only way you can find this information out is under oath, and without it being a real hard proof. There's little evidence. The police require real evidence, and if they don't care about the truth, I mean, it has to have real evidence in order to create, for the truth to happen. It's too bad how the police and the criminal justice system works right now. The truth. Anyways, just want to talk a little bit about leak through, and that is when I mentioned like a wild murder or rape, that can actually get reported in reality. It's what I call leak through. Sometimes the supernatural can leak through to reality, and this is what I mentioned about if you do if you do the murder in the most wildest fashion, the less likely it is to get reported as real. So that's what I'm saying. But if you do the supernatural, sort of like you would do reality, there's a good likelihood that it could be merged through to reality as a real rape or murder. And but with the police force, I mean, the criminal justice, if you know, they need this real thing, and it needs to leak through to real in order for them to have even evidence which to go from. And that's the thing about this supernatural, is that even though it's true, it's not real. So it's weird. It's like it's not real, yet it's true. So somebody got murdered, and it's true, and it wasn't real. And anyways, it's quite complicated, I guess.